phenomenally more qualified than I am to be standing here and talking about this race. We've heard a lot of phenomenal history. We've heard a lot of things about the founding of this nation and of our constitutional document, both at the state and at the federal level. And there's much that has drawn us here. We come from a lot of different places. We come from different socioeconomic backgrounds. We've come from different counties. We come from different religions. We come from different races. We come from different generations. But we're all here for a reason. We're here for a variety of reasons, but not the least of which is that we care about this country. And I'll tell you, there's many emotions that you have when you go through a race like this. But I'll tell you the one that I think would best describe how I feel both now and have felt for quite some time is humbled. Genuinely humbled. And it's interesting, you all have been very gracious in stating that, you know, you're sorry to be taking time for me, or that thanking me, or that this is an evening about me, and it really is, and I appreciate the sentiment behind that. But the reason that we're here tonight is a whole lot bigger than any one of us. It's bigger than any one race. I'm almost a little disappointed that we've deflated the bouncy balloon, because I'll tell you what, hearing all the noise that was coming out of that bouncy balloon, that's why we're here. It really is. And even more critically, we're here because we are one nation under God, indivisible. And if we don't continue to fight for this, to battle for this, to make the sacrifices that previous generations have made to give this opportunity to us, so that we could freely assemble, so that we could be gathered here, so that we can have political discussions freely, openly, in opposition to the powers that be, without fear of what would happen. If we don't make the same sacrifices that have been made for us, then what are we doing? A tremendous sacrifice has been made by so many that have preceded us. 1.5 million of our fellow citizens have given their lives in uniform in the last 235 years. 1.5 million individuals, so that we could be assembled here today. And I'll tell you, if there's any one thing that we have seen in recent days with news coming out of the VA, with the ways in which so many of our veterans have been treated, even in this modern generation as they come home from war, we as a nation have got to start treating our military folks with greater respect. I'll tell you, there is no gathering of people like this in eastern Ukraine right now. There's no gathering of folks like this in North Korea this afternoon that are having these kind of discussions, or in any number of other countries around the world. We are truly blessed. What is at stake is significant. It really is. And I really am genuinely humbled by the fact that you all are gathered here, that you are as supportive as you are. Because I'll tell you, my hat's off to each of you that are running as well, and for your families. Because when there's a person running, your family is running, as you family members know, and as my wife has found out. So our hat's off to each of you. And let's give a round of applause to everybody who has preceded me here on this afternoon. It's a lot of sacrifice. Whether it's 6,000 doors, 6,000 phone calls, or just 6,000 minutes or hours. I've driven 48,000 miles now around just Kentucky in the last 9 months. That's a lot of miles in one state in 9 months. But I tell you, we're blessed with a beautiful state. We really are, and what a beautiful day. And the things that are at stake are significant. They really are. I could sit here and give you a platform speech. I feel a little bad because there's a number of you that I'm meeting for the first time. And some of you have maybe never heard my background. I'll just touch on the highest 30,000 foot level of it. I think a number of you know it at this point. But I'm a guy who grew up in a simple way. People have often asked me, why do I want to be a politician? Why am I running for political office? Why would I want to do that? And what I will tell you, frankly, is what I've always told folks. This is less a function of something I want to do and more something that I'm willing to do. And I'll tell you, we need more men and women who are willing to serve us. That don't want this, but are willing to do it. And we need men and women who understand as well how the wealth of this nation is created. We absolutely have got to start electing men and women who understand from first-hand experience how you run a home, how you run a business, how you run a budget. Because at the national level, we have increasing numbers of people who don't seem to have a handle on that. And I'm a guy who grew up in a simple way. I grew up in the country. I shared a bedroom with my 3 brothers my whole life growing up until I went off to school. Paid my way through school. I went to Washington and Lee University in Lexington, Virginia. I graduated from there. As Joe alluded to, I went into the military. I was an active duty Army officer for a number of years. But then I got out, and for the last 20 years and change, I've been out in the private sector. I've been paying taxes. I've been paying attention. I've been doing the very same things that each of you is doing and have been doing. And this is what's at stake for us as a nation, is the future of this nation. This is a nation that didn't get here by accident. It's not going to stay where we are on autopilot, and we know this. And I could go on for a long time, and I won't, about the fact that whether it's financial or educational or spiritual or moral or whatever the case may be, the paths that we are on are not good. We're not in a better place now than we were a generation ago. And we're not on track to find ourselves in a better place than we are even now. And the question we're left to ask with is, what is each of us willing to do about it? There's a lot of discussion you hear about, gee, I hope somebody steps up. I've said this myself. I hope somebody steps into this race. I hope somebody comes to the forefront. I hope somebody will stand in the gap. But every one of us knows, and for those of you that are running or have run or are currently in elected position, you understand that the somebody is always somebody. And sometimes the somebody is us. It's really that simple. It's no more simple or complicated than that. And so this is an instance where somebody needs to step up. Somebody needs to fight for the people of Kentucky, to represent the people of Kentucky, to represent true conservative principles. I was just over at Mayfest, and I had a woman as I was leaving. It was interesting. We were just making our way back to the bus, and interestingly, I wish this was my bus. I'm in this bus for 5 days, and I get to pretend it's my bus, but it has been wonderful. And honestly, before I tell you what this woman asked me that was kind of insightful, let me just, they're going to hate me for this, but I want to call my family up here real quickly. Come on up here real quick. I want to introduce my family to you. I just had to give the Bevin family whistle. And you see they start coming. I bet some of you didn't even realize that I just did that, did you? But yeah, go ahead and grab. Come on over. I want to introduce you to this whole crew because I'll tell you what, there has been a great price paid by a lot of people in my family, and I'm grateful for that. It starts with my beautiful wife, Glenna, who has really been a true blessing to me. She really has. In many, many respects, and I'm just grateful. I always jokingly tell people I've got 9 children, she has 10, and so I'm grateful for the fact that she puts up with all 10 of us. This is Isaac, who is right here. Isaac is 9 years old. This is Grace, who is 15 years old. This is Olivia, who is 12 years old. This is Jonah, who is 7 years old. In the back here is Madison, who is 14, and her twin sister Mackenzie, who is 14. And this is Lydia, who is 9, and little Dan the man, who is 4. And this is Sophia, who is 12, and this is the Bevin cake. So thank you. I won't make you guys stay here unless you'd like to stay up here, but we'll let you. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. You can go back and keep playing. But he almost acts like he's maybe heard me speak before. I mean, here's the thing. This is, at the end of the day, this is why we're here. Every single one of us is a father, we're a grandfather, and I love it. We're firing the thing back up again. We're fathers and we're grandfathers, we're mothers and we're grandmothers, we're uncles, we're aunts, we're sons, we're daughters, we're grandparents. This is why we are doing this. This is why this is so important. We need men and women that will fight for us where we are. I'm the only one in this race that is raising a family in this environment. Between myself and Mitch McConnell and Allison Grimes, I'm the only one raising a family in today's world. I'm the only one that has served this nation on active duty in the military. And I'm the only one who's ever created a job that you all didn't pay for. And that's something that unfortunately, I employ dozens of people, and I'll tell you, it is getting increasingly difficult for those of you who know, from personal experience, it is getting increasingly difficult to be a small business owner in this country. If you have 49 employees, what's your incentive to hire a 50th employee? Zero. Zero incentive. And why are we as a nation suffocating the very entrepreneurial spirit, suffocating the very economic enthusiasm that is needed for future generations? Where is the job creation going to come from? Where is the incentive for the next generations if we overtax and overregulate things into non-existence? And that's what we're doing. My business is I own all or part of 10 different companies. Everything from metal stamping, I make bells, as I've heard a few little bells ringing out there. These are Bevin bells. I make all the bells for the Salvation Army kettle ringers. I've got companies that make medical devices, companies that make composite decking and railing systems, companies that make LED signs for schools and churches. I don't make jumpy balloons, but I wish I did every time I see how much fun kids have in these things. But a variety of things. And I tell you, we've got to incent people to go into the future and create this opportunity. I'm not going to make this very long at this point. I really and truly, at this point, this race comes down to not so much ideology, because frankly, the people that have not already made up their minds are going to vote on a motion at this point. It's as simple as that. Let's not kid ourselves. And so I agree with those who say that we've got to get out and talk to folks, not only in this race, but in every race. We've got to get out and talk to people, 1, 3, 5, 10, 50, 100 people, bring them out to the polls. This is how it's going to be done. This is our race to win. This is our time. This is truly an opportunity for America, for Kentucky. When we win this race, we will send a shot across the bow of the political establishment. You talk about a shot heard around the world. This will be a shot heard around the world. I'll tell you something interesting. Last week, I was out on the road, and I was being followed around by several different news crews. And I had a crew from France, a crew from Denmark, a crew from Austria, and a crew from Germany. You know where we didn't have anybody from? The United States of America. And they were flabbergasted. And they said, why is it that whenever we're following one of the candidates, we're the only ones that seem to be paying attention? When we're with you, we're the only ones. When we're with Grimes, we're the only one. When we're with McConnell, well, we can't find McConnell, is what they said. Literally. They literally are not allowed near him. But that said, the point they were making is that where is the local media? Where are the people who care? And I'll tell you, where are our fellow citizens? Exactly. There's at best going to be 3 out of 10 of us that are registered to vote that are going to vote on Tuesday. And as was noted, that's pretty pathetic. It really is. And shame on us. And I'm guessing it won't be the us that's assembled right here. But where are our fellow citizens? Bear in mind that only 6 of 10 people that are eligible to vote even bother to register to vote. Exactly. The last gubernatorial primary, we had 12.8%. And when we're up here in Boone County, in Boone County, the reality is you got a strong Republican stronghold, and you're going to have good turnout because you got a lot of primaries, and the same for Kenton and Campbell and others up here. But around the state, we'll be lucky if we see 25 or 30%. We can do better than that. Encourage your friends to be informed. Encourage them to do the homework. Send them cheat sheets if you must. If you've done homework on judges and other nonpartisan races, or even among candidates where there are 4, 5, or 8 candidates running on a particular ticket, give them information. Share that information with your friends. This is our government. You hear a lot of people talk about this being a battle for the heart and soul of the Republican Party. But it's bigger than that. And some of you have heard me talk about this, but if you've not, I challenge you to recognize that this is much more than a battle for the heart and soul of the Republican Party. This is a battle for the heart and soul of the entire political process. And it's a function of whether or not we are still in charge. It's a function of whether this will be, as was noted earlier by some of those who spoke, a government of and by and for the people, or whether we are going to stand by and accept the fact that it has largely been hijacked by a handful of people who think they're in charge. And I tell you what, we need to stand up and take our government back. We really do. And it's done at the ballot box. It's done at the ballot box. I'll tell you, there's people here from the media, and I appreciate those of you that are here covering this. And I'll tell you, people represent various networks and various ideologies, and there are those that would have you believe that people who care about individual liberty and care about freedom and care about the future and care about their children and care about the Christian foundations of this nation, they would have you think that the people who care about these things are a bunch of crazy people. But I'll tell you, I would challenge anyone, look around this crowd. What you see are your friends, your neighbors, your families. You see reflections of yourself. This is our country. This is a nation that has long been indivisible. And we are increasingly dividing this nation, starting with our current administration. And this has got to end. It has absolutely got to end. The question I was asked by the woman at Mayfest, she said, if I had to ask you, what is just one thing that you stand for, and only one thing? And she afterward commented that it didn't take me any time to answer, and she found that surprising. She said, because I ask that of everybody, and they always try to give me several things, or they have to think about which one. But what I told her is, if there's any one thing that defines who I am, or what I believe in this race, is that I believe in upholding and defending the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic. This is what I believe. And if we don't take this seriously, if we don't fight for this with a sense of conviction, and a sense of passion, and a sense of urgency, the likes of which is being exemplified in that bouncy balloon, if we don't have a smattering of that same kind of energy and enthusiasm, then shame on us. Because I'll tell you what, we've got what happens in this electoral cycle of 2014 at the federal level, and we have what happens in the presidential election of 2016. And we either start to dial this back in, and we either restore this to being a nation of and by and for the people, or I worry that we will have lost our handle. Because if we become financially insolvent, and don't kid yourselves, the #1 threat we face as a nation is the debt of this nation. You've heard analogies about how much $1 trillion is, or $17 trillion, and it's true, it's unfathomable to us, and yet we have people like Mitch McConnell who will vote time and time and time again to keep raising the debt ceiling with no concessions, to cutting anything anywhere, and it's got to end. It has to end, and it's up to us. We know it's up to us. We know it's up to us, so get out there and make it happen. Again, I'm grateful for all that you've done. Keep your foot on the gas. Everybody in the media keeps asking me. I did a television interview this morning, and I did a few over at Mayfest and some radio programs, and everybody asked, well, what's your strategy for the next 2 days? And I always tell them it's the same strategy I've had for the last 9 months, which is I actually go out and talk to voters. It's a crazy strategy, I know. It's different than the one my opponent uses, which is to take tens of millions of dollars from people who don't live in Kentucky and run ads reminding you that he's your friend. He's a friend of coal again, and he's a friend of veterans, and a friend of the small businessman, and a friend of puppies and apple pie as well. And he's a friend of all these things once every 6 years. And we're reminded of that with tens of millions of other people's dollars. I've been doing the same thing that I'll be doing for the next 2 days, and that is just continuing to talk to people, continuing to meet people, continuing to look people in the eye, take questions from people, and continue to put myself forward as a candidate for U.S. Senate. And I will tell you this, and I'll close with this. I do not need or want this job badly enough to misrepresent myself or to mislead you in order to get it. I just don't. And this is why I'm unapologetic in my support for life. It's why I'm unapologetic in my faith. It's why I'm unapologetic in my support of our Second Amendment rights. It's why I'm unapologetic in my defense of the Constitution. It's why I'm pro-family. It's why I believe in a limited government and less taxation and less regulation. Because while I realize these things don't necessarily appeal to everybody out there, I want people to know who I am and what I believe. And I want them to go into the voting booth and make an informed decision. And if they go in the voting booth and they make an informed decision, then we will indeed have the representation that we want and the representation we deserve. So spread the word, thank you, and may God continue to bless the United States of America. Thank you.